Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2Have 2Role podcast. My name is Oliver. On this show, Robin and I are joined by Kate. Kate is a LARPer and plays in the Empire LARP system here in the UK. Her character is in the Nation of Dawn along with us. Kate is also a cosplayer and a talented artist. We talk about art and its place within LARP systems when it comes to immersion. Kate is an enthusiastic archer, and we also talk about archery within the combat system within Empire LARP. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you give us a thumbs up. If you're new here, consider subscribing. This will help us out. If you're listening on your favorite audio platform, give us a nice review. That'll also help people find us. And with that all out of the way, let's get into our conversation with Kate.
The last few times we've had triage just behind us, and the person who runs triage is wonderful, and they have looked after the tea and coffee each time we've gone. Apart from one of the times where I think I was like, I got so much left over, and I ran over to House Orzel and was like, I have all this tea and coffee and we're all off to battle for like 2 hours, so help yourselves. And I think they just went over and just set up there for a while.
Yeah. That's the thing about the coffee thing. I do not want to commit to it in character. But yeah, we end up getting, I feel so bad when people come over like time in. And they're like, have you got any coffee left? And we're like, no.
I know. Yeah, you gotta.
Yeah, so we just started bringing flask, and we were like, right, okay. Well, I still need to remember. I actually stopped off. I was driving for work. I was driving out through like the back roads in Herefordshire, and I passed this like real open like antique store on the side of the road. And I just wandered through it, and I was just looking for like large enamel coffee pots, because they're really hard to get hold of, especially in this country, because people don't use them anymore. And I use like the smaller ones, but they only give you like 3 or maybe like 5 cups of coffee. We seem to go through a lot now. So I'm wanting one of these huge, great big ones. I could find like big enamel like milk jugs with no lid on, but I'm like, that's not gonna be any use. And then when you get them from an antique store, like I was kind of like putting them up to the sun and being like, is there a hole? Because if there's a hole in it, it's just useless. You can't use it at all.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for the point where we're like, okay, we've now got a huge big jug. We really need a bigger fire pit now, so don't wait. Okay, we'll get a bigger fire pit. We may as well get 2 of these big jugs. And it's just like, okay, there's no tent. It's just all fire pit and coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just going to expand into Dawn's first coffee house, and it'll be a thing.
I'm trying not to get to that point, because we might want to. Yeah, you never know. I might be like, what I really want to do is my game is run a coffee shop, and people have a really good game, like just running the apparent. I hear.
Yeah, I mean, like in character at E1, I'm going to bring a load of eggnog with me, because then I thought I can warm that up in the evening, because at E1 it's cold, so I'm probably going to go back to the tent earlier, and I'll just sit there and I can warm up a load of eggnog, mix it up, and then people can just come and drink eggnog by the fire.
That sounds like a plan. Yeah. But you really do have to draw your boundaries. I think it can be tempting to almost like have your aspect of the game become almost like a job.
Yeah.
Even though, and then it's very easy to forget that you've paid for a ticket, you've invested time and energy into creating this character, and then you're like, hang on, is this fun anymore? And I think that's the best piece of advice I've ever got. It's important to check in and be like, am I still having fun? Because like this is holiday for me.
Exactly.
It's very easy for the other people on the other side to forget, and this is it's no shade or anything, but I think people will, especially when people are organizing like events, and it's player led, and they're like, right, I'm organizing whatever, this tournament or this competition or this this thing, this art competition or this poetry reading. And then people, start going, oh yeah, you should do this, you should do that, and it's like they're kind of doing it for fun. They get all stressed out, and they're like, you're literally paying to organize an event within an event,
Yes.
Keeping on top of that is difficult. So we're recording. So Kate, how did you get into LARP, and the LARP origin stories, because this is how we open the podcast all the time now. Is what's your origin story?
It's a good place to start. Yeah. So I started LARPing in 2016. My first event was E4, which was definitely a chilly one. But yeah, I'd been doing tabletop role play and stuff, and a lot of cosplay for a few years. So I guess it was kind of a natural combination of the two. And I had quite a few friends who did LARP. But
a similar origin story to us then, because we
very similar.
Yeah, we came through. How long were you cosplaying before you started LARPing then? Because 2016 wasn't that long ago, was it?
Oh gosh, probably about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm guessing MCM Expo.
Yeah. Just know who you cosplaying mostly. What was your were you known for a particular cosplay or?
Yeah, definitely. So I mostly did Zelda.
Yeah, a classic.
Zelda related things.
A classic.
Yeah, so specifically the version of Link that has the bunny ears.
Right, okay, yeah.
That would...
I know Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Are the bunny ears in that? I don't remember. It's been a while. Maybe in Majora's Mask as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would mostly go for Zelda meetups and things, which was so much fun.
Yeah.
But then I've also done certain anime. What else? And like superheroes, things like that.
So all the classics, pretty much.
All the classics.
Did you used to make any of your costumes or anything like that?
Yeah, that was a huge part of it, actually. The building up, and just kind of the sense of achievement you get when you're actually wearing something that you've made.
Yeah.
I collaborated on this with my friend Connor, who is he should be LARPing really. He's a reenactor, incredibly talented person. But yeah, we made that together, and it's like it ends up being something so much more than if you would have bought it from somewhere, you know.
Definitely,
It's special. I know a lot of cosplayers that should be LARPing, and we've been trying to convince people. You're like, you were really like that, because like you say, a lot of cosplayers just end up falling into TTRPGs, and you're just like, it kind of is just a merge of the two, really. So,
yeah.
Some people don't like you describing it that way, but it pretty much.
Yeah, some people really don't like that, do they? But like, it feels like that. You know, you've got all your role play from the TTRPG, and you're combining it with all the costuming, and there you get LARP. That's where it's
pretty much. If people ever ask me to describe LARP, I first say you pretty much have to be there to understand fully. But if they want contextualizing, it's like combining those two particular hobbies, basically.
I mean, you've got to do your best when you're explaining it, and that's the thing. We've talked like for hours on record for like about LARP, and it's still my biggest advice is still like you will not get the feeling from like a book or a podcast or a YouTube video. You got to just try it, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a good. I think it's a relatively close enough to say like, oh yeah, you know, imagine being in a D&D game where you get to cosplay, but instead of just sitting down in cosplay, you're walking around and doing the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm a slightly bad example because Empire is the only LARP I've ever done. And I know there are.
Same with us.
There we go. I'd be interested to know if you guys would agree with this, in that I just don't have the energy. Like it's such a big game, and there's so much to explore in it, that it kind of just ticks all the boxes, really.
It is a lot in the best way, right?
I mean that in a positive way.
I totally agree with you there, actually. Like there's so much there. And I would love to try another system, and we definitely will try other systems at some point. But at the minute, I feel so invested in Empire and every aspect of it that to put myself fully into another system as well, I think might completely drain me. I don't know if it's the same with yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the only other things that I have going on at the moment are TTRPGs. But that's because, you know, you don't have to make any of the costume or anything like that. But yeah, same with you. Like, there is definitely intent in the future. Maybe take a couple of months off Empire and do another one.
Yeah.
One that seems really cool is Second Breakfast.
Yeah, that looks so fun.
If we could get tickets to that, I think we'd go straight away because that looks amazing.
No, right.
Yeah.
That's is that ILARP that does Second Breakfast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be lovely to try ILARP at some point.
Yeah, it's Halfling Hobbit. I'm pretty sure it's okay for us to say Hobbit LARP. It's not as if we're not ILARP marketing it. So that's the thing that draws me to it. It looks awesome. I like the fact that they say like the PvP is just purely political, so there's no combat, but the combat is just, you know, being snarky with each other.
Yeah, just like general drama.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do you get to do any of your cosplay these days? Is that still a part of a hobby of yours, or a bit like us, as LARP and D&D kind of replaced it a bit?
Yeah, pretty much. Though I am thinking of going back into it this year. But again, it's a time and energy thing. But it's like the social aspect of it is so fun. You get to meet some really cool people. And I've recently got into Vox Machina.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going for I'm starting a new character at E1 this year. And some of the costume overlaps with one of the characters that I want to cosplay from Vox Machina. So I can kind of justify it a little bit.
Who's the character? Can you tell us who's the character? Tell us the character. From Vox Machina.
Yeah. This is really bad. I haven't been watching it very long, and Critical Role fans are gonna get very annoyed with me. Is it Vex?
So yes, Vex. I love it. I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm also going to be playing an archer and things like that. So
nice.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Ooh, an archer in Dawn.
Yeah, Yo-folk though, so somewhat justified.
Yeah, we know that there's a few archers in Dawn. We have heard that sometimes they get a little bit. I think that there's like in character shade thrown at archery in Dawn because it's part of the brief, isn't it? Well, maybe you can.
Yeah.
Is that something you thought about when you went? Oh, I'm going to do an archer character.
It was not really, but I do like certain aspects of the brief that create conflict like that. And it's just something to sort of get your teeth into, really. But it was mostly because I have the hard skill. And it's something that I've always wanted to try. And I have a bow. I have a couple of them. So it's more for a practical sense. And also the character that I've created doesn't really have much desire to be noble. And I think it makes sense for a Yo-folk to be an archer. So yeah, but that'll be fun.
That's a good point, actually. I forgot. I've seen a picture of you with your bow. I've seen some real nice pictures, actually, because you did a photo shoot. Was it last year you did that shoot?
Yeah, it was in September, with somebody there in House de Rondel.
All right, okay.
Yeah, and they have stunt horse, and they're just like one of those people who's just multi-talented and just magical. And I said, hey, you've got a stunt horse, I've got a bow, let's make cool art together.
That's so cool. I didn't even realize they were in Durandal. I followed them for a little while after seeing your photographs, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And I followed the trail from your photos, and I was like, whoa, this is a lot.
Yeah,
that looked amazing. So you did like a bull shoot on horseback, didn't you?
that's right. Yeah, yeah. So we arranged it for a little while, and then we got in touch with a photographer who does a lot of sort of medieval reenactment photography. And we just sort of pitched the idea to him, and he was really invested as well. And normally with photo shoots, you need to have, you know, quite a while. And unfortunately, we had quite a tight schedule. But all of our ideas like sort of worked brilliantly, and we're going to have other ones soon, hopefully.
Oh, that will be amazing. Will that be with your new character or a cosplay related?
So we're going for like Empire like Empire inspired, but not a purely LARP one, no. Because obviously horses don't exist in Empire.
Yeah, it has to be. I know. I would like to see some more people do like proper like dreamscape, photo shoots with horses. Yeah, because there's a lot of people. Like I work with horses, but I don't have a horse that would be appropriate at all for photo shoots. Really, especially not like ridden ones. What was the horse you worked with? Like, I'm assuming it was a pro horse, was it?
Yeah, so Alex does a lot of sort of liberty training, which is training the horse from the ground. And it's something that you develop over years and years, basically. But yeah, it's based on more of a mutual companionship. He'd be able to explain it a lot better, but you're not sort of training them by controlling them. It's much more, you know, based on, I think, healthier ways of training a horse. But yeah, so we spent maybe a couple of hours before even the photographer arrived, just getting to know Poppy. She's an Irish cob, a total tank.
Oh yeah,
just
she looks it. Yeah.
Total unicorn. Beautiful girl. And yeah, just but he basically directed her a lot from the ground.
Yeah, it's really smart. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. That's the thing. I've seen the photos, and I've seen some of the videos that he's put out there, and I just thought, wow, I wonder what the shoot was actually like. So he did a lot of the directing from the ground while you basically positioned yourself for the photographer then.
That's right. Yeah, it was the three of us, sort of, well, the four of us really, all working together, to be honest. And thankfully we all harmonized really well. But it was my job to make sure that the arrow didn't fly out the bow, and sort of looking poised and ethereal. And Alex was making sure Poppy was okay and things like that. And he gives her very subtle signals. It's amazing to watch, really. And then the photographer was sort of off a few meters away directing me, so it was really cool.
And lots of teamwork.
Very much. It was very funny as well because we were on public land, so we had a couple of dog walkers come along and be like, is that an elf? That's weird.
That happens. I'm sure the public are way more used to go circling back to cosplay for a short stint, like where before conventions got really popular. It must have been really unusual to see that, but then like there was a convention every single town, and it's not unusual now to drive through a town and be like, oh, there must be a convention on because there's loads of people in cosplay. So it sounds like you had a way more harmonious equestrian photo shoot than Robin and I had, because we did a
tell me about it.
Like I said,
it was hilarious.
Yeah, like obviously, like I said, we're horsey, but we didn't you know, get in touch with someone that actually had a horse trained for this. He was a good horse, and he was a driving horse, big Frisian. But yeah, obviously, being used to being driven and being ridden by a certain person isn't the same as having a strange man on your back that he wasn't used to. And I was in my Jaime Lannister costume, which was mostly like made of warbler plastics, thermoplastics, things like that. So it made like a flappy kind of noise, and I had one hand because I had one hand in a golden hand. So
I forgot about that.
so and our photographer, who was great, wasn't overly. I think he'd shot with horses before, but hadn't done that much of it. So yeah, there were times he got the best shots when pretty much the horse was going out of control, but we stuck through it. Don't recommend it. Don't recommend it.
It was when Oliver was like, okay, yeah, we'll start going, we'll start trotting, and it made a flapping noise, and then Zorro started cantering down the field, and you're here one hand, and then the photographer's like, yes, keep going, this is great. Okay. We're doing this.
Yeah. Oh, bless you guys. Yeah. It's funny actually, because a lot of what Poppy had to do was standing still, but you'll know this as horse people, is that horses don't really like doing that for extended periods of time.
Yeah, especially when you've got, because what was your? I'm trying to think of the pictures now. You had like long flowing like robes or something on, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a long dress.
Yeah,
so for a little bit of time before the shoot, Alex actually, he made a skirt for himself and rode her around with it to get her used to it.
Yeah.
And the sound as well. But you know, horses can spook a plastic bag, you know.
Yeah.
They're flight animals.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the thing, sometimes people don't kind of appreciate that either, that if what they're used to is what they're used to, you know, you will have horses that are kind of have better constitution than others for that type of thing, but yeah, if they're just because they're used to that you have to get them used to that, and just because they're used to bells and certain things over their heads and things like that doesn't mean something they've never seen before won't make them go, oh, you know.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like the owner, the one that we did, she sent us pictures beforehand, because I was like, I'm gonna have a shield, and she was like, oh well, he's never had a shield on him before, and you only have one hand to hold on. So she got a bin lid, like a big bin lid, got on his back, put a cape on her, and started cantering around the place, sending me pictures, going, look, he's great. I got on, picked up the shield, and he went, what is that? And I was like, pose for the photo.
Yep. Always the way.
It sounded like you had a very lovely magical time on your one.
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, a huge credit to the relationship between Alex and Poppy, to be honest. And you know, they've been working together for a very long time. He's also adopted another horse called Megan, who unfortunately she was abandoned. She was pregnant as well, very young. But he, you know, I think it's a good example of, it takes a huge amount of training to get a horse to be able to do that, because I've sort of thought, oh, you know, we could maybe have Megan as well. But Alex has said, no, like Megan isn't ready.
Yeah.
It
takes a long time.
And it takes a lot. So then when you watch something like, I don't know, Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or something, and you see the horses on there doing mad tricks, you think, crikey, you know, they're really talented creatures.
Well, that's the thing, it's what they're capable of is quite incredible, but a lot of times people don't understand they are trained to do that specific thing. So like the ones that you see that, you know, they rear up and they fall down, they're trained specifically to do that maneuver. You know, it's not just a case of, oh, it can do anything. Even like the you know, the bucking horses in the like American rodeos, they're not just wild horses, they are literally trained to do that move. They're trained to, once they step the foot in that arena, then they buck, and they buck a certain way, and then once they come out, then they just go, oh, my job's done, and that's it.
Yeah.
So they're not yeah, they're not as flexible as people think, but they usually just train to do that one specific thing. So if you are doing a photo shoot, don't do it like we did it. To make sure you get a decent horse person that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, advice for budding equine models out there.
Because I would like to see more of it. I definitely want to put people off doing it.
Oh no, and I mean, like, yeah, with us specifically, it was a friend's horse who we knew well and everything else, and we both done enough riding that we're like, oh, it should be fine, whatever happens. But yeah, certainly wouldn't want to put people off, as long as you find, like you did, find, the right sort of horses that are trained to literally have somebody on their back with a long flowing dress and things like that. And yeah, it's because I would love to see some more shoots, because when I saw your photos, I was just like, I want to do that again.
Yeah, do it, definitely. I mean, I'll let you in on a little secret. In the next shoot is hopefully going to be involving Rafe.
Who's that?
Who's that?
But they are a very accomplished horse person, and that's pretty much why I thought, yeah, they'll be awesome at it. So yeah.
It's quite funny because I'm so I'm a farrier by trade, and when Rafe was one of the first people we met at LARP, and it's one of those jobs that a lot of people know what it is, but sometimes people go, oh yeah, what's that? Oh, okay, all right, okay. But yeah, it was funny, Rafe being one of the kind of first people we met, and I was like, oh, he's like, oh, what do you do? I was like, oh, I'm a farrier. He's like, oh, right, yeah, I have horses, and I'm like, all right. And I think he said to me once, you're my favorite farrier. I'm like, how many do you know? And he's like, oh, like 4 or 5. And I was like, okay.
Mainly because you ended up pitching everybody's tent because you could actually go around and help. You're like, everyone is a farrier here. You're like, no.
Yeah. Don't look at me.
This is the only way I know how to make friends. I can hit things hard with the hammer. Don't ask me to do anything else. But
it's definitely very helpful being a strong pair of hands at LARP. Like, there's a lot of manual handling to do, isn't there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's we're maybe a little bit lazy. That's one thing. Like, showing up on the Friday, you don't get as much opportunity to kind of help people out. But yeah, it's definitely a tip. Like, if you're new on the field, then go and help people set up. You don't have to like put up massive, huge marquees, and be like that physical. But people usually need help, like taking things from cars to tents, right?
Oh yeah, like people always need a hand. It's such a great way to obviously make friends and to get to know people. But yeah, it just kind of makes it a little bit easier edging into the game as well. If you've already met all these people out of character, and yeah, everybody always needs a hand setting things up. There's just so much to do.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, Kate, did you start LARPing on your own, or did you come in with because obviously you've only done Empire. Did you come to Empire just on your own, or did you come with like a group of friends, or?
Yeah, so I was introduced to the Orzels, who, very, very big group. Though at the time they were a little bit smaller, but over the years they've definitely expanded. So yeah, I was, and pretty much with most LARPers, they were really hospitable. So one of them, you've probably encountered him, Martin, who plays Ozarin.
Yes.
He was so sweet because he made like a little family tree and said, here's how you slot into the Orzel family, and here's the sorts of things that you can do if you want to, but you don't have to, you can do what you want. He was an absolute sweetheart about it. So yeah, I sort of just, I think for my first event I was just a little bit bewildered.
Yeah. So how did you find it initially? Did you hear about, or did you start researching and then went, ooh, what's this? I fancy going to that.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I knew quite a few LARPers already, and lots of people went. So I thought, actually, this looks really cool. The photos look incredible. And then you get into the character creation process, and it can sort of take over your life a little bit, can't it? And you're like, oh, this is really exciting. So for a few months beforehand, I got sort of really into it, and then maybe a week beforehand I got really nervous. I don't know if you guys had that at all, just like, this is actually reality now.
I think maybe I was a little bit jittery right before. I was fine right up till time in. Robbie, you were a bit jittery on the drive down, actually. I remember you like.
I was fine. Okay, it was fine.
she was so nervous.
I don't know what was going on that drive. I have never had car sickness in my life, and for some reason on that drive I was like, no, it's just because you're going on a really windy road. We should have gone a more direct route. That's why I'm feeling this way. And Oliver's like, nah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm just like, I think I had this fear that I'd forgotten something, like something important, you know, like the tent or all my clothes. And I kept having those sort of nightmares the week before where I turned up and none of my kit was there, or, you know, I'd forgotten the fire pit or something like that. And I don't know if that's the same, if that's kind of how you were feeling like the week before, with feeling those sort of nerves and things like that. It was more just the what if, you know, sort of thing. But only at the first event.
Yeah, there's definitely that. I mean, I'm sort of generally a warrior, so even, you know, I've been doing it a while and I still think, what have I forgotten? But the difference is that I know if I've forgotten something, then just everyone is so kind. And if you need something, someone will probably lend you something.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I found. Like the LARP as a hobby, everybody just seems to be so welcoming and friendly, and just they want everybody to have a good time. And like what you were just saying about your experience coming into House Orzel, and the way that they are able to, you know, slot you in and give you some game, but only what you were ready for at the time is just wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. Yeah. And I also, it's really cool when you see creators integrate into the game, because they kind of document something that I think every player goes through, which is, you know, their sort of that journey. And before you guys came, there was a chap called Rick Van Man.
Okay, yeah.
And he turned up, and I remember seeing him, and he was wondering about I think I'd been there maybe a year or like a few events, and he was dressed up quite a bit. I'd say maybe a winter marker, but he was Dornish, and we were in the Orzel tent, and I saw him just outside, and I was like, "Do you want to come in? Just come and chill with us," you know. Our excuse is that, you know, we were from Varushka, and that has a principle of hospitality, but to be honest, it's like we just want more cool people in the tent.
It's a good excuse to invite people in. Yeah.
I must admit,
exactly.
Like sorry, I go for it. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, he had a similar journey to you guys, in that he came on his own, and he slowly became really just in love with it and had this growing enthusiasm, and it was just really cool to see. So
that's the good thing about, I mean, you like, we're always careful, like we don't want to be intrusive on people's games, but people definitely, on the flip side, it's nice when people get something from it, you know, when people go, oh yeah, it's helped, because I got to admit, it helped me listening to other podcasts that I listened to. So one of the reasons I got into Empire was because one of my players in a D&D game I was running, or a Middle-earth D&D style game I was running, we were talking about LARP, and they listened to the guys who do the LARP noobs stuff, and I listened to their first episode of like what it was like going there for the first time. So that gave me a real feel of what it might be like, because that's the thing that might give you nerves, right? Or it was maybe what gave me a bit of jitters especially right before timings. I'm like, I don't really know what to expect. What's going to happen? Is there going to be like a bell ringing at time in? What's going to be expected of me, or what's, You know, am I going to be expected to do something? Do I have to, what if I get it wrong? What if I don't know how to role play correctly or something, and I've missed something and there's not been any fine print anywhere that I can find it? I think that's probably something that might cause a lot of people anxiety.
Yeah, that was, I think, the case for me. Why I was nervous is, you know, you've created this really cool character, and then you're like, hang on a second, how does this actually work? You know, that's I think a big difference with tabletop role players, that you're rolling dice and you're doing this and you're doing that, but it's actually knowing to what extent you're actually acting out these things. You know, I was interested, my first character was an artisan, and I didn't know if you had to create things like on the spot, like you know, like a farrier or a blacksmith or something, and then when you get there you get context and it's much easier to understand the whole ribbon thing. Yeah, but I think, and I didn't want to make a fool of myself or offend anyone or anything like that.
Yeah I think the biggest worry is and I think a lot of people have said this, because I like to ask people, was it what you expected? In fact, actually, I'll ask you that. Was when you actually finally got into roleplay, was it what you expected?
No, not at all. I didn't think it would be so immersive and so emotionally just consuming in like the best way and the worst way possible, because not like, I mean, there were negative emotions as well, you know, certain characters dying and things. It's all very cathartic though. But just, and yeah, no, not at all. Don't really know what I expected, to be honest, but just the quality of game and the amount of enthusiasm people have, and just the quality of some of the costume you see is amazing.
Yeah, like it really is. Actually, like with you mentioning the costume as well, there's one thing about yours that I kind of want to know about, and it was with your character, so you had feathers for one of yours, and I'm really because I've been looking at the photographs and trying to figure out, I cannot figure out how those are attached or how you did it. So please tell us how you did that, because they look incredible.
Yeah, Glee definitely. I like to imagine her like a Pokemon. So she went through several evolutions. The first time I got on the field, I'd actually made the feather trappings myself. And gosh, I made them out of like an amalgamation of, I don't know, modeling clay and cardboard and tears. And they were like stuck on there with spirit gum. And yeah, it wasn't great. I mean, funnily enough, they were the most kind of stylish, I think, trappings. And then you know, you go through battles and stuff and you need new trappings. So I went to another one which was made by a lady. She's actually a trader at Empire, and those were similarly, like, I think they were made with modeling clay but a lot lighter. And then there's actually a special effects artist within Orzel, absolute sweetheart, love him to death, he put me in touch with somebody who does prosthetics work. And I said, okay, I did some drawings and stuff, and I said, you know, this is kind of what I'm interested in. I've done a lot of trial and error. It can be really tricky if you're doing, you know, battles and stuff. I need something that's going to be really solid, but that will last for a few events, so I can justify that. So that the last one, her final form, so it's latex. It's either latex or silicone, I'm not sure, but it's that sort of material. It's very, very thin. and then it's got sort of a filigree design in it, and then the feathers are like welded in there almost, and then I just stick it on with Prozaid.
Oh wow, okay, now I know how I could not figure it out from the photos, because I was sitting studying them going, this is flawless. Does she actually have feathers? You know.
No, I mean, once it was done, it's literally like plonk, pretty much. So long as you use the Prozaid correctly, it would. I mean, I think I actually fell asleep in it once, and it was still there. You know how it is when you it's 2 a.m. and you're like, oh, I'll just sort this out in the morning, and then you really regret it.
Yeah.
I've definitely had nights where I've been like, I could just sleep in my ears.
I've done it once and
already
I didn't want to do it again. Yeah, I did it once. Okay. I was like, no, it's just for the sake of just ripping off my ear, then it's just because you are tempted, especially because it's a fiddle in the morning as well to get it done. How long did it take you to get it all on? Like, because I'm assuming you kind of have to put your kit on first and then put all that on.
Yes, Lady Grania in particular, she took maybe, I'd say like costume and makeup would be an hour. Mm-hmm. That was after some practice though. So yeah, it would be the ears, it would be the spirals, and then with Prozaid you have to pop it onto that certain element, whether it's ears or feather headpiece, and you have to let it dry until it's key. And then you pop it on. So like, I kind of got it down to a fine art, like sort of, tiredly drinking tea at the same time and putting on makeup. You know how it is.
So you said you used Prozaid, but you tried spirit gum before. I've never used Prozaid before. I've only ever used spirit gum. Do you have a preference out of the two?
Yes, Prozaid all the way. All the way.
I might have to give that a go then, because I use spirit gum and it's painful.
I hate spirit gum.
So painful.
So you need it is painful, and then it leaves like nasty residue and stuff like that. It was actually this Dan Tuck chap who he just gave me a little pot of Prozaid and a little pot of the remover, and so long as you have those two, you're sorted. You can go out and you can do all sorts of skirmishes and battles. You can cry, you can do all the kind of drama ball gowning that people do in Dawn, and your trappings will be fine.
You've got to think about that, because you were probably like us then. If you came like through cosplay first, you were probably very aware, or I'm sure that you've made costume pieces, because nobody's perfect, and you look at it and go, this will be fine for the day. I don't need to right. See that face. So so when we went to LARP, we were very aware of, oh no, this is like no, this needs to be, we can't just like like a Velcro sticky thing. Oh yeah, there we go. That'll do.
Some hot glue the night before, done.
Duct tape, things like that
on the inside. I'm not going to line this little bit that I've made because no one's going to see. But in LARP, you're like, no, I have to wear this the entire weekend, and I kind of want to be comfortable in it,
It's a really good point that you guys are making, like, and I think that's what a lot of cosplayers struggle with when they get there, is so much of it actually has to be practical. And keep you warm, because if you're not warm, if you're not comfortable, then you're gonna have a bad time.
Exactly.
Yeah, you are. So what was the so because you said your first character was an artisan. Did you stick with the artisan stuff, or did you kind of go, oh yeah, I don't know about
that? Yeah, I did. So I basically chose a certain number of recipes which us as a house definitely use. So gosh, I think it was like rune plate and maybe a vorpal blade, you know, lots of kind of martial type things, because we were definitely a martially oriented house.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I really liked it because it is fun to make props and things like that. But yeah, I definitely liked that aspect of it.
Yeah. Is it something that keeps your game busy over the weekend, or is it just like, because I know some of the, I've spoken to apothecaries about this, and some people obviously like love the apothecary game, but from what I know about it, it's like a lot of it is like people will just kind of bring you herbs, or you bring herbs, and there's no, you can obviously role play out that you're making something, but mechanically you've kind of got to go off to God like on your own and go in the out of character area to kind of get your potions. So is it a little bit like that, or is it just something you can do on the side during the game?
For me, it was definitely more of a thing on the side.
Yeah.
But it was definitely, you know, I didn't not do it, if that makes sense. It was still like a big part of her story, you know, that's where she came from. Both her parents were artisans and things like that. And I do like how when a magical item can actually be part of a plot. So to bring it back to Rick, he was commissioned by the Empress at the time, their throne guard, I think the head of the throne guard or something, to create a special sword or something. And it was a huge thing for him to make this and present it to the Empress. He himself. Yeah.
That's really cool artisan game. That's so cool.
It was so cool as well, because out of character, I think he found it quite daunting. Especially the person who plays the Empress is so charismatic and she has such presence. So he was playing my retainer at the time, and I was almost just like emotional support, but it was just really cool to see that particular thing happen, all because of a sword. You know. I
definitely need to spend some money. I mean, my house is artisans, currently my new house, but I definitely need to, because I've realized that so a lot of it being like a powerful character isn't all about just like making sure you've got enough experience points and it's just saving experience points. You've got to be like, the best thing to do is go, right, I'm going to put experience points maybe into like hero calls or something, and then use magic items to buff your hit points, you know, and kind of even it out a bit, instead of going, oh, I'm going to get one hit, use all my experience to get one hit point, and then one hero call, and then one like unstoppable or something, you know. I think I need to delve more into. Robin got magic.
I was going to say my this ribbon that saved me. That really saved me last time, and
that Aranel used out of our joint funds.
I asked Godric, okay, and Godric's like, yeah, sure, but in Godric's voice.
Yeah, well, we had a mana crystal, and Robin was like, Aranel was like, I'm gonna trade this mana crystal. Is that okay? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then she comes back and she's like, oh, I got some enchanted mail. And I'm like, well, how are we gonna split that?
Well, Godric wanted Aranel to remain safe, and I think that Godric would have wanted her to have that. Oliver, on the other hand, really wanted some cool armor.
It's fine. It's
such a pretty ribbon. It's bloodstained, fake bloodstained.
Yes, amazing. But that's the thing, like that's you know, again, game created through an item, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
As justification for it, but you know, like specifically with things to do with battle, green steel bracelets are often given from you know, nobles to yeofolk, so they have a shield, so they don't get squished the first time they go into battle, you know.
So the green steel bracelet, are they the ones that give you like the shield skill? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know they actually existed. Just coming in and then having spent points on the shield. That's the only points I actually spent for my first character E1 was the shield, and then I looked around and I was like, God, everyone's got a shield. Everyone's got a shield. But then I later found out, no, it's sometimes like it's a magical item that you can give to people to let them use the shield. So
yeah, I mean, it is I think relatively expensive, or certainly an inconvenience. So I definitely think having a shield is a really important thing on a battlefield. But there's also the bonding aspect of being an artisan, and you can tell a story through that.
So mechanically, what is the bonding stuff? Is that the thing that ties it to the player?
Yeah, so you can't just give a magical item to somebody and they use it. You have to go and find a ref, and as an artisan, you have the power to bind it to that certain person for however long it is. And yeah, I mean, I've had bonding moments where it's quite touching, really. And quite emotional, especially if it's a battle thing and that thing is potentially going to keep your character alive.
Well, I wasn't prepared for that because I literally thought, oh yeah, we'll put this. And he was like, we need to find a ref. I was like, oh cool, we'll find a ref who'll give me a ribbon and I'm going to go off on a skirmish, a nighttime skirmish on the Friday. Fine.
Oh no.
So, but he was like, no, we need to do it this way. And he stood there and he spoke to me and he said a load of things to me as he was slowly tying it on a very particular way and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he's like, you know, this will keep you safe. And I'm just like, oh, I really hope it does.
You're like, don't tell Godric.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like, because like, I suppose that has like that has reasons in character, out of character to so in character, you know, other characters won't be like, oh yeah, let's just steal all this stuff and then we can just use it. I guess that it kind of deters that kind of like, oh yeah, we'll just take this person's enchanted mail, they don't know we have it, that's fine, and I'll put it on for this battle. And I guess it deters people from like stealing ribbons and things like that as well, because it's tied to that player's PD number, so they don't go, oh, what have you got, a enchanted shield? And you're like, oh, it's a, you know, if it was questioned, you'd be like, oh, it's a ribbon, but I'm assuming the ribbon is tied to the actual player's PD ID. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it is. So as soon as you're bonded to that thing, it'll pop up on your account for however long. I think green steel bracelets might be a couple of events or something, maybe a year. But it depends on the item. But no, we don't appreciate theft at LARP. Super not cool. But if we can do things to prevent it, then
it doesn't seem to be like luckily it's not very, you know, a very common thing, because everyone there is playing the game. Like, did you find it I know we definitely did, refreshing coming from like cosplay to LARP, having lack of general public, because when you're cosplaying, you kind of, there are some really good events out there that just are like cosplay events and things like that, but usually you're cosplaying at conventions and convention halls full of people. You know, did you find that refreshing?
It is very, very immersive, isn't it? So then everybody is dressed exactly in the same way, and it's very easy to forget the outside world. Cosplay isn't so much about necessarily being lost in something. It's, I think, a lot more about celebrating a certain fan base or whatever. And I know it's a mixed bag, because in some ways I liked being on the DLR, getting to MCM and sort of or the underground, and people just looking at you like, what the heck? Why are they dressed like
getting
that?
into it to a lift at a hotel, you know, for all these people.
We got way more nerves cosplaying than we ever did going out to a LARP, you know, for that reason, you know.
Honestly, we started Empire last year, and we'd started it and everything, and we were all confident and things were going great. And we went to a cosplay event, and it's the first cosplay event that I've been to in years. The nerves, I went straight back to my pre-LARP self, and the nerves and anxiety of stepping out of my car in a car park at the event where I knew everyone was in cosplay. I felt so much nerves, and I was like, wow, it's really weird how at LARP this feeling doesn't tend to get anywhere near this level, but for some reason for cosplay it's still, for me personally anyway, it's still certainly there. Have you done much many cosplay events since you started LARPing?
Not really any at all, to be honest. The closest would be a couple of photo shoots, and you tend to not really do that in public or where there are many people around. I suppose the closest to a sort of feeling like that would be Taylor Favors, the Montrose event, which was I think it is Chippenham. But we drove there, but we were in full kits. And we had to walk from the car park to the church where it was held, and there were sort of people in cars like, what the heck? Why are they dressed that way? You know, I had like green hair and antlers and a big long ball gown, and you know, there was Mercy there sort of dancing along, yay.
I could totally see Dave just dressing like that all the time anyway.
Yeah. I find it weird seeing him without his kit on, really, like as in with normal clothes on. I find that kind of weird.
Yeah, that was definitely an in-character Mercy reference, I think.
I have definitely done pin-ups of the boy. He's that's very on brand.
So what can you tell us about your new character then? Because you were I know I've cause we never actually had any contact like on the battlefield or things like that, but we've got I've seen pictures of you like out in the front line with your shield, but you said you're going archery this time, so is that going to be a bit of a different, is that going to be a gear shift for you then going into combat?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I think it's part of being such part of such a martially oriented house, and that we were always like right up at the front. It's quite easy to see any Orzels because they're sort of, it's weird. I'd be interested to know if you guys had this strategy, but we kind of spread out but then try and keep an eye on each other, so we're not as a whole unit. But you can quite easily spot an Orzel like on the front line.
Definitely. Like the Orzel shield is just so striking, like in seeing those it's quite easy to find one of them.
I think that's exactly. A very Dornish in general strategy as well. Well, I like you say, it's that there are certain people anyway. There's certain people that you look for cues. You know what I mean? You're kind of going right. It kind of maybe looks like we're all moving in a big blob, but there are certain people who go, oh, right, that's happening over there, and if you are vigilant, then you can get yourself out of a lot of trouble if you kind of know who to look for cues for, you know, because that's important to staying alive, especially when you get to experience it from the other side of fighting against the other nations. Monstering, you kind of see mistakes that people make, and that is one I see people make. They lose focus. They may be like, looking off, what's going on in the trees, but they're not like looking on what their allies are doing, you know. Before they know it, they're cut off, and they're like, oops.
Or like scouting out the area properly before actually heading in with a plan. That's something as well.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of it is mental, really. But I mean, I think, Robin, you probably have this a little bit more, but I'm only 5'2", and being in a shield wall right at the front is just not practical, and generally just not safe. So I have like nearly been squished a couple of times, especially in the forest. I haven't had to call any sort of safety or anything like that, but the idea of sort of standing back a little bit and maybe being with a group of quite small, like smaller people, but we're more agile and maneuverable.
Yeah.
That's what appealed to me a little bit more. Like, I know that my forte isn't sort of being against the tidal wave, you know. As much as I love this shield, it's going to go up in the L tent, and
cool.
you know, I'm just going to be a bit more of a ranger type thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. Actually, I mean, I love being in the front line, but not with a shield. I like being, you know, using Godric as a shield, because then I can be more maneuverable, like you said, being able to actually be fast and running back and forward and getting through people and striking out when the opportunity arises. But I think if I were there standing holding a shield, like, I'm a little bit taller than you, but I would still end up, you know, probably just on my butt most of the time, or get crushed between people. And I think that might something I want to try at some point. I might need to get some enchantments so I can try it at some point. But for now, I like my 2 swords and ability to run around. So it means that I might actually have some interactions with you in the battlefield. If you're further back and shooting, then I might be able to have some interactions there. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've touched on something that is just so important, which is teamwork. You know, there's somebody in Orzel who, well, there's quite a few tall people in Orzel, but I'm thinking of one in particular. I think he's 6'5" or something. So I had this shield and he had a pole arm. And we just went round as this little unit. I protected most of him with the shield, and he would strike over my head because he could.
Yes, exactly.
And as you know, if you've got something like that sorted, you know, it could be a group of maybe 3 or 4 people. You're probably going to be all right.
Yeah, communication is definitely key. Yeah, especially if you're at the front, or in fact, actually, yeah, if you're someone who is usually standing behind the shield bearers, make sure that you go up and just like tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, you know, because yeah, sometimes people are behind me, and it's like, it would be so easy if you just say, you know, and I have had a few people do this, and it's great, just say, hey, look, I'm behind you, and I'm like, cool, if you want to strike down, you want to use, just say, Godric, I want to strike this down, 3-2, and I'll make an opening for you.
Yes.
You know, instead of just like standing, because especially if you're like stood in a wall, we don't know you should know what's behind you, but a lot of the time people don't know what's going on behind them. So little tap, say, hello, fellow hero of the Empire, I'm here with you.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes, it's just that teamwork, and I think that's, for me, I think that's why I like being in the front line, because I like that teamwork of, you know, being the small stabby one and being able to be like, oh, I can see someone, they've not seen me, and to be able to sort of, you know, tap the person with a shield in front and be like, right, let me through, 3, 2, and they just don't expect it, and it's funny, and you get to run off to the other side after, and they're just like
oh, very much so. Yeah, just being fast and agile and just like that is really useful. You can be big and strong, but you don't actually have the maneuverability, and quite often unless you're really quick, it's very easy to see that certain strike coming, so someone can parry or defend. But if you're sneaky, you know.
Well, like, I got throwing as an ability last time because I just wanted to screw with people, and I got throwing. So I think I had 6 or 7 throwing knives on me, just tucked everywhere. And it was just so much fun to be able to be like, ha, that's one hit.
Yeah, because people are very conscious of archers, and they're like, oh, there's no archers, I'm safe. And then when someone uses the throne, they're just like, oh, really?
Really? Come on.
Come on, man. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you taking? Do you know if you were taking anything else to like complement your archery? Like healing or anything like that?
Yeah, so part of this character was just trying aspects of the game that I never have before. So one of them is healing that I'm really excited about. It again, it looks very dramatic. To be honest though, when I was Lady Glee, I was doing a lot of parallel healing, so I wasn't doing the healing itself, but I would just be behind the line dragging people back to the healers.
Yes, yeah.
Because if you've got that awareness, you can sort of just look out for people, you know, for OC safety as well, because if people fall on them, then it's just not great.
Exactly. And it saves somebody who's like in a shield wall holding the front line, removing themselves to move somebody back, when somebody who has 2 free hands can just, you know, move them back and keep the shield wall strong.
Yeah, exactly. But then I've also done quite a heroic scene where it was with Bors de Carsoneer. He had fallen and just like put the shield in front of him, was like, right, just get out, you know. So it can be really cool in terms of role play to do that certain role. But for me, I wanted to do, like, invest a bit more in the quite specific role play of you know, fixing somebody up and things like that. So, and with a bow, you can sort of like pop it on yourself and get your hands free.
Oh yeah, so
that's a good point actually. Yeah, you can get 2 free hands really easily. I actually think about that.
Yeah, so I don't think we're gonna have to worry at all about us not getting any game together, Kate, because you'll be seeing a lot of me if you're going to be a battlefield healer.
Yeah, you're going to see.
Duly noted.
I like to use everybody's resources.
Doesn't matter what nation they're in, they will end up spending some resources getting Godric back out there.
back up. I do. That's the thing. I'm probably going to try and convince everyone in Dawn that I do need some like extra pumping up with like magical items or something, because a lot of I spent most of, I think it was E3, it was either E3 or E4, literally just running to the front, getting hit 7 times, and then just turning around and coming back and be like, I need healed again.
You definitely did that at E4, because I spent a huge amount of E4, because we were so close to the combat. I spent a lot of time with a load of the healers protecting from, because I was like, I'm in heavy armor, then I can see a lot of archers around out there. I'm just going to use my body as a shield for the poor person who's healing Godric for the 10th time in the last few minutes.
Just but it's a site, because it's easier to go back and get healed than it is to go down to 0 and then have people, like 2 or 3 people, try and drag you back. So the key is to be like, get up there, but then sometimes you walk straight to the front and then you just get mauled, and you're like, oh,
you used up all my get it together so quickly.
I think you used pretty much everyone's get it together.
my role play got very aggressive towards the end of that with the get it together.
But I'm pretty sure I had like Rion like just to have his hand on my shoulder at one point, and I just continued to play role play, and I'm like, well, he's doing something. I'm just waiting for him to be like, okay, you've got X amount back or something like that, and I just kept going. It's just like...
tanky characters are excellent, but they definitely need their backup team of healers to fuel them back up again.
That's where it's won. So like the archer again, because we like touched on it before with like Dawn not having that many archers. It must be a little bit of a different game. That's good if you're being a healer, because some nations literally have like units of archers where they all go out. And they are going to hit a certain point, but I imagine it's not going to be like that for a Dawnish archer, because there's only like a few using there. I think I only know like 3 maybe.
I mean, it was inspired by a lady in Orzel. She's played by a lady called Tanya, but it's Lady Nynaeve. Lovely lady.
Absolutely wonderful.
Yes, I could sing her praises for ages, but she doesn't take the battlefield anymore for just for health and well-being purposes. But it was like she was always busy. There aren't many Dornish archers, but they are definitely, you know, helpful.
Needed. Oh, 100%. There's several times where you're literally looking at, or yes, or some archer is like harassing a commander on the front line or something, and they're trying to get something done, and there's just like these little archers being like, just having one archer just pinning them and just having like that overwatch, like you said, Robin, of someone like, if there's healers around, just having someone on overwatch, you know, just making sure that there's no archers trying to pin us, you know, is super handy. And especially when people don't expect, just, you know, if the Dornish line is moving forward, just a cheeky little arrow just to pop out and go, oh.
Oh yeah, it definitely catches them off guard. Yeah, it's quite funny you mentioning Tanya, actually. She was my first interaction with House Roselle, because it was at E2, and I had this sort of like, it was like a scavenger hunt that we were basically part of. And I knew I had to speak to someone in there, and I'd never been to House Roselle before, and I was standing outside and I thought, oh, they're having a really important meeting and I don't think I could go in. I thought, I'll stand here. And she came out and she took my arm and said, come in. And she took me in and she fed me and she gave me something to drink and a seat. And then she walked me into the meeting and showed me who I should speak to, and was just wonderful. And I was just like, from that moment onwards, I'm just like singing Arzelle's praises, because I'm just like, it's the most friendly place. And if I'm ever really hungry and I'm walking past, I know that I can go in and sit down and chat away, which now makes sense after what you said earlier about them originally being from Vrshka. So that actually now makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, that's you know, that's the principle in which the tent is built. Basically, it's hospitality, it's bringing in talent, it's bringing in people who you know, possibly might feel a little bit nervous, so it might be their first event or something, and they can just, you know, we've got the awning now as well, which means you don't necessarily have to go in, because going through that threshold can be quite nerve-wracking if you don't have a lovely Tanya to help you.
Oh, I know. I was just like, I must have looked like a rabbit in headlights, just standing outside being like, okay, just walk in, giving myself a pep talk. And I just love the whole, hello dear, come with me. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're just waiting for that moment where everyone, like the Western cliche where you walk in and everyone just like stops and looks at you and is like, oh,
oh no. Yeah, but then for a while, for many years actually, Earl's Council was held there.
Yes.
So there's that as well. You know, lots of people come in and have those important meetings and things like that. But then on a Saturday, they try and hold a sort of music sharing evening, a sort of party. So yeah, if you want to see any particular bards or share a song or something, definitely go and check out what's going on in House Roselle.
Yeah, you were saying about like new players as well. That's one good thing about the one benefit about having the big groups. I'm assuming this would be the same for all of Empire, I guess. That's the one good thing about having a big group, is that you've got you can, you know, invite new players in, and there's always someone buzzing about. Because that's the thing with us, if we're like, because obviously it was just Robin and I, and now we're like still part of actually quite smaller groups. Ours is getting big enough, and we're getting more players now. But like, if there's only like 3 or 4 of you in a group, and you obviously want to invite new players, and oh yeah, you know, come do this. But then if you've got other places to be, you can't always, you can't always offer them hospitality if you want to nip off and do something. But I think that's the ideal thing with the bigger groups, is that if there's you know, like 12 of you or something, there's always probably someone always near camp, you know. Keeping the fire, that's one thing we struggle with. Like, I would love to like keep our fire going, that was saying with the coffee earlier. I would love to keep our fire going and keep the coffee going, but we're just like, no, we have to put it out because we have to gird up and go off and go to battle. There's no one left behind.
I think that's something definitely for this year anyway, because we've got, like I said, we've got like little awning and stuff there, and we have a few things set up, mainly because we're usually near the Glory Square. We try to just have lots of chairs there and make it obvious that people can come and borrow chairs and tables for anything that's happening in the square. But I think that this time it would be really good to be able to have something set up there so that people can feel they can come and they can sit down in there if it's, you know, heavy rain or something and they need to get in, or if there's any Imperial orcs wandering past and it's blisteringly hot outside, they can get some shade, you know. But that's what's so wonderful about the awning at House Orzal. I mean, that's just such a nice little fun place to be.
Yeah, definitely. And if you know, are holding any sort of meeting or something, you know, it's always an opportunity to be like, okay, we'll meet outside this place, you know.
Yes.
And you can migrate from there, but it's just helpful having a kind of landmark.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You create lots of wonderful art. You so I know that you have been creating art within LARP. How long have you been actually creating art for?
So as a, you know, proper commissioned artist type thing, maybe the last couple of years. But I've always drawn. I have a degree in illustration and animation, and I did a lot of art before that. I did an art foundation and things. But that was sort of one of the hard skills that Lady Grania had, is I went and I wanted to draw cool people. So that was something that I really enjoyed doing. And it was great as a new player, because you can be an observer, but you're still doing something. You're sketching people. Often these people look really nice, or they're very much in their element, or so it's, you know, I think it'd be a really cool idea to get people in their LARP kit and then do a sort of set life drawing class with their costumes all looking amazing, you know.
That would be really cool, actually. Yeah, I mean, so sorry.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I'm disappointed I missed the opportunity to stand in the glory square, like with my knee atop a mighty beast or something, holding my sword aloft, as artists do the drawing, you know.
The new character draws as well, so just chat to them. We'll sort it out.
I would love that. Just take up the whole, just be annoying and take up the entire glory square. I'm just like, just wait, portrait's almost done.
It's very changeling.
So your art, you do that in character then in the field?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a little sketchbook and sort of collect things. The drawings are very different. So the things that I do outside for, you know, gifts, or people, you know, want portraits of themselves and stuff, I will do with, you know, inks, or certainly more colourful. But I'll take a lot of time over picking out the particular things about those characters and what makes them them. Or sometimes digital ones as well. One of my favorites that I did recently was of two characters that fell at E4.
I saw this piece. It is beautiful.
I've not seen it yet.
Oh my gosh, it's
yeah, a really good friend commissioned it, and I felt like a lot of pressure, because I was like, you know, Lady Olivia and Lady Kyriel were super cool characters. Again, like, I knew of them, but I didn't interact with them. And then he was like, can you draw them, and then we'll put it up in the Crimson Circle tent. I thought, oh god, I've got to make this good.
Because you did this, did you not do it? I might be mistaken here, but is this the piece that you were doing and you had like shared a little sneak peek of it and made sure they couldn't see the post or something, just to kind of like tease people with it a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think that might have been it.
Yeah. Because I remember seeing a bit of it and being like, oh, that's going to be really smart. And I'd kind of forgotten until you put the final piece up, and I was just like, oh, wow, it's the emotion you've managed to capture just in especially like in the eyes. And
but then when you sketch on the field, often people aren't sort of standing still. They're, you know, as we were saying, they've got tunnel vision, they've got a job to do, they've got a quest to follow. So it's a lot more about capturing the atmosphere. And also just capturing someone's likeness is really difficult.
You do a very good job of it though, because I've seen one of the posts you put up recently where you were like, you know, do you recognize any of these sort of characters? And I was like, yes, I recognize all of them. And just from like a split look at it, and I was just like, wow, that's I know exactly who that is. And one of them was somebody I'd only like met briefly through this sort of thing, and I was just like, oh, I know exactly who that is straight away.
Thank you. That means a lot. I think a lot of it comes through practice. But then I think LARP lends itself a lot to, you know, people are creating unique characters and are trying to look different. So, you know, I'm sure you know of Becky Appleyard's work.
Yes.
She has these cute little chibis.
Yeah, she does.
They're adorable.
They are super sweet.
But yeah, when someone is doing something a lot more cartoony, you take elements from that make that character, you know, themselves, and you inflate them. And it's similar, though I wouldn't say my work is very cartoony. But yeah, you do a similar thing. And I know also people are commissioning art to try, I think, and celebrate aspects of how they look that they really like. So I try and pick out, you know, they might have really beautiful blue eyes, or, you know, they, I don't know, have gorgeous hair, something like that. And I will try and emphasize that certain thing so it makes them feel good about themselves.
Especially if it's like an illustration that would fit in the setting. I think it's a medium that doesn't get enough attention, because I know like music and storytelling gets a lot of attention in the field, you know, as that artistic medium of like, oh, this, and it adds a ton of immersion. But I would like to see, when I see art in the field, that obviously adds to the immersion as well, because we're in the fantasy world that doesn't have television screens and things like that, and we are telling stories and things like that. But yeah, art would be, especially, you know, if we're all like the big important people in the Empire, and we've got all this stuff and we brought it all to Anvil, like, of course, why wouldn't we bring paintings of ourselves and our homes and things like that? It's definitely something that doesn't get like highlighted enough. And I love going into tents and being like, oh, there's a painting of the character.
There's some real nice ones around the place as well, and it gives that sort of more homely feeling. And like you just said, you know, they're traveling there, you're going to have these wonderful portraits up on the wall of maybe yourself, or maybe a lost friend who was once a mighty warrior or something like that. I mean, it's a lovely touch. So if, you know, like on the field and everything, do people just come up and speak to you to commission art, or do you organize some of these things ahead of time if you're wanting to do the drawing at the actual event?
Drawing at the actual event tends to be a lot more of a spontaneous thing. I mean, people have said with this new character to be like, why don't you set up sort of portrait drawing stands or something like that? I mean, I think it would be cool, and it'd be something to possibly try, but again, it might turn into a little bit of a job.
It goes back to what you were saying at the start, doesn't it? Of this is your weekend, this is your holiday, it's not another job sort of thing. It kind of coincides with that, doesn't it?
And there's something really lovely about, you know, you might be sitting in Wise Guys or something, and you've struck up a conversation with a completely new person, you're just having a drink, and then if you get your sketchbook out and sketch them and then give them the drawing, then that's something, you know, that they can then keep, and that is a connection that you've made. And then I don't know, if it was really fleeting and then they have this drawing of, who was this person who drew me, tell me where you know, which house are they from, that sort
Find
of thing.
the artist.
But also what you were saying about, you know, going into houses, and, you know, sometimes they'll have characters that have passed away. You know, last year Orzel lost a huge amount of really key characters.
Did.
Yeah. One of them was Lady Grania, but then we also lost Osran as well, which was really sad. Just and Lady Emmeline. And we definitely have plans to like have art of those particular characters up around the Orzel tent, so you can go in and you can hear the stories of those characters that have passed away.
Yeah.
It keeps the spirit alive, that sort of thing.
Yeah. They had some impact. That's the thing. Like I said, we're in a setting where like there's no photographs, so you know that would be an important thing. I mean, it's definitely something I would want to do for Godric now he's noble, and hopefully by the end of the year maybe. Well, that's totally something Godric would do. I'm like, no, what do I need to lug all the way to Anvil on my oxen? Oh, obviously my portrait.
In my big golden frame.
Of course, a big golden frame. You know, and it's going to take up the entirety of our camp area. Might need its own like little marquee or something.
You can use it to start as soon as like you now need to go to these meetings, so you could put it in your place. This big painting of Godric just in the chair at one of these meetings.
Yeah, but it's a little bit similar to because some people really make the effort, and I really appreciate it, even though I don't particularly want to do it. People bring some really fancy furniture, you know, and that does really kick off the immersion when people bring like a throne with them, pretty much, for their noble camp. It's awesome. It's so good. I love it. But I'm like, I don't want to bring that with me.
I mean, if you've got the means to do it, you know, the Earl of the new house that I'm going into, he pretty much I think it is actually a horse box. And you know, so if you've got the means to do it, why not? A house that I used to hang around with a lot as my previous character was House Aurelius. And their tent is lovely because it's open, but they pop the guest on a seat like right in the center, and then they're all sat round, so it's almost like the guest is the centerpiece. There's a lovely photo of my last character just sitting on that, and then the Earl is sat down on a sort of at her feet, and it's really atmospheric and lovely. But yeah, it's just something as, you know, simple as a piece of furniture can provide so much game.
Oh yeah, especially when you're, you know, because it's like it's not obviously it's functional, but it's like set dressing as well. So if you have like some real kind of medieval European throne, it's very like, oh yeah, that's very fitting in the Dawn camp. And then if you go and you see like those wooden carved chairs over in the marches and things like that, they are as fancy and there are as big to like lug around, you know, but it's very much like adds to the immersion of the different camps, which I love. So so is there a reason you went kind of noble to Yo-folk for the new character, or do you just want to change your pace?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I think it can be quite easy when you join Dawn to have that natural trajectory of, you know, I've joined and I want to do the test of metal. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think I just sort of had enough of the noble game, really. And I really want to explore being a Yo-folk and the certain sort of story that goes along with it. I'm going to be a retainer as well, so there's this sort of retainer noble relationship to explore and things like that. And yeah, I just think the Yo-folk can sometimes go underappreciated. And I like the idea that, yeah, you could just be as glorious, but you don't necessarily have to have done your test of metal.
Yeah.
All the Yo-folk say that.
Whatever.
Union.
You're a knight errant. You're barely. You're still transitioning, right? But the thing is, like we went in being very much like, because there are like knight errant players that are very much like still, they're like, oh, I'm still definitely Yo-folk, but we both went in like going, right, we know that the idea is to be noble, but we wanted that bit of the game because it was such a tantalizing bit of game that we wanted anyway, and also it gave us something to do, the knight errant thing. Like, all right, well, to be a noble, you need to test a metal. We don't know anyone, we don't know any groups, so it was just a good make friends type game as well. But we kind of went in, well, I'm speaking for Robin as well, but yeah, I definitely went in being like, no, I want to be noble, so I kind of came in already acting like a noble, if you like. But I love the whole, I do love that there's that difference, and I think it's more misunderstood by other nations than it is by the nobles of Dawn. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's one of the few nations, isn't it, that actually has a set class system. But yeah, I think definitely it can be misinterpreted. But you know, I've seen some of the best role play between a Yo-folk and their noble, just doing it exactly, just perfectly.
Yeah.
And it could be so funny as well.
Yeah.
Like a really sassy Yo-folk and a noble that is just so pompous, and
yeah, I'm really looking forward to exploring it in role play, because like I said, I became noble like right at the last 30 minutes of E4, so I'm looking forward to like discovering that type of relationship, because it feels very much like they like PD have tried to make it more like a symbiotic relationship than a master servant thing. You know, it's like the Yo-folk are because they deal with all the money. You know, the nobles aren't. They don't deal with the money. They can't do this without the Yo-folk. And yeah, it's not a case of, you can say, oh yeah, can you do this for me, and you can say that, but it's not uncommon for the Yo-folk, like you say, to turn around and say fuck off.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and it takes a lot of sort of craftiness and you know, just being quite smart to be a Yo-folk, because you're probably cleaning up after your noble quite a lot with all of the drama that they cause.
Yeah. That's what steered me towards the noble game, because I was like, I've no interest in trading. I want to go out. I don't care if I'm getting paid to do something. I just want to go out and just like do it and have everyone tell me how great I am. That was what the character I wanted, you know. I just didn't really. Yeah. So I'm like, no.
You see Robin shaking her head like,
Robin shaking her head, but tell me you're not the same, Robin, and go on, tell me you're not the same.
So I mean, the difference is I didn't go into the game thinking that. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
We were there and I was like, I don't know which part of the game I'm going to be interested in. And I was like, oh, quite like to become my lady at some point.
Because you said you had like you had a player that was playing your previous character's retainer, and then now you're playing a retainer. I imagine that is because I've spoken to people who have done the whole like retainer and this, that, the other thing, and they've said it's something you need to keep checking in with your retainer. I actually
don't know much about the retainer position at all. Could you actually just tell me a bit about what it actually is and what it entails, because I don't have much experience with this.
Yeah, I mean, I can sort of I mean, I haven't sort of studied the wiki. Personally, I find it a little intimidating as somebody who does, yeah. As somebody who has dyslexia, it's a little intimidating. But my experience is that a retainer is like a Yo-folk who's sort of in a team with a noble. It could be an earl, or it could be a seneschal, or you're basically like that person's, right hand, their support system, and you stick with them, and it's like expected that you'd possibly do the girding, and things like that. And it's just a little more of a closer knit relationship, whereas just being a Yo-folk of a general house, you would sort of help out all the nobles.
Right. So you're more tied to one specific noble and keeping, you know, that noble safe and happy then.
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, it's still to be sort of sorted out. And as you were saying, you sort of check in with that person and you don't want to be bothering them all the time. And I certainly will be interacting with other people in my new group, but I'll sort of always be keeping an eye out for that particular Earl and be like, you all right, you know.
That's really cool. I like that.
Like you said, it's a like we're the only nation with a class system, and I think like that type of position would be like unique, really. I know we've got like civil servants within the Empire and things like that, but I'm assuming that kind of relationship is quite unique in the Empire, really. So yeah, you've got to be careful with your. Don't think if you can just get, like, new players come and play a noble and be like, oh, I'm going to have a servant that waits on me hand and foot. Make sure if someone wants to play a retainer, you check in and make sure they're having fun, basically. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm incredibly lucky that the person I'm going to be retaining to is really lovely, and he's sort of said, you know, keep checking in with me, make sure that you are having a good time. You don't have to wait on me hand and foot and that type thing. But as you said, it is symbiotic, so you are, you know, providing a support system for that certain noble to let them go and do their glorious deeds, but at the same time that noble is looking after that Yo-folk. You know, so it goes both ways. And I think I've seen it on the battlefield as well. Quite often a retainer and a retainer and a noble will stick close to each other as well.
I got it. I do love it, especially when I was talking about what PD had written into it, another thing about Dawn, for people who don't know the gird, because you mentioned girding, like girding's not just a case of, oh, put my armor on because I can't do it thing. It's girding's quite an intimate thing in Dawn, you know, so you don't just let anybody, you wouldn't just let anybody, even sometimes, you know, Yo-folk in your own house do it. It's very like if you're letting someone gird you up, that means you trust that person entirely, basically, you know.
Yeah, very much so. In Orzel, it would be quite an emotional thing. You know, this might be the last time we do it together. You know, you're sort of saying things to each other going on. But yeah, and I do also like the other aspect of girding, which is possibly wearing someone else's guise, you know. Dressing up as someone else, and you know that you know, OC, you know, it's them, but you see them as a different character. That's quite cool. But then the other side of girding, which is taking it off after battle, was it E2? My character had died the night before, but lots of characters had died that Sunday battle, and so I was just kind of playing, you know, next Yo-folk from the left, and like going into this really like caring state, because so many of the Orzels were just broken, sobbing, you know, and just very gently taking their armor off, giving them water, saying, you know, everything's going to be okay. I know you feel this way right now and you did all you can. And that's all like building a relationship between these two characters, you know?
Yeah, it's a cool thing. Yeah, because it's now that we've got, because it just so happens that Godric's nobility and Aranel is still kind of like errant Yo-folk. So we always used to gird each other, you see, in character. So it might force us now to be like, oh, we're gonna have to either do it on our own or find someone else to do it, and then like build those bonds. That's gonna be cool.
Or maybe we'll have to like do it secretly, like behind a tent, like, you know, no one else is guarding you for battle. No one else is gonna do it the way that I do it.
I know. I'm just. We've already talked about this. I feel like it's going to be like this thing. I think how hilarious would it be that now that Aranel can't go Godric, that he just comes out and goes, "I'm ready for battle," and just falls off him, like, as he's charging. He's like, "Oh no."
And she just rolls her eyes. Oh,
right.
Yeah, because that would be like the in character like version of when like Robin goes away for an evening, and I'm just like, why is it a mess in here?
I'm just waiting for the time where you come out and you're like standing in front of your like new house that you've tested into and everything, and you're like, right, and they're like, you're naked. Oh yeah, Aranel girds me. I don't think you know what girding means.
Oh my goodness me. Yeah.
Oh dear. I mean, I should be joining you nobility soon, so we'll be fine.
That's such a cool process when you go from that state to fully being noble. That can again be quite emotional.
Yeah.
Gonna be really cool to see.
Yeah. One thing, I don't have anything to well, I don't have anything to do like this year, but it's the start of last year. I was like the start, you know what I mean, like the start of the season. I was like, because we start with winter, right? So sometimes people like correct you, and go, "Oh, it's actually still." I'm like, at the start, when we started last year, I was like, I have something to do. I have, I'm gonna go off and do my test of metal. This year, I'm like, I might try a bit of that, might try a bit of this, but I don't actually have like a big goal really of things to do. I know Robin wants to pass her test, but I'm just like,
oh, I've got a list of ambitious things I'm planning on doing this year. Well, most of them are planning on doing on the Friday of E1. I mean, I don't know how this is going to happen, but yeah. What about yourself, Kate? Have you got obviously I know you probably won't want to reveal anything, but do you have some like big plans for this year?
Not sort of icy really. I suppose sort of just finding my place in a new group. Though to be honest, we interacted a little bit as my previous character. And then we found that we just had really good vibes. And that's why we decided to have me join, and then we've had a few more people join since, so now there's 6 of us. And I just think that 6 is a really nice number. I really like the idea. I had this idea as my previous character, but I like the idea that it's like continuing a legacy. But the idea of taking an artist, maybe a Dornish one, not necessarily though, and taking a test of ardor and then combining the two, so it sort of gives that artist a prompt, and then they can create a piece of art and then publish it in some sort of way. So it's like a way of networking. Because so often like tests of ardor sort of happen and then just sort of more things happen on top and they can get forgotten. But I love the idea of sort of immortalizing it. You know, there have been so many.
There's a lot, and out of character. That's kind of what this podcast that I appreciate when we started doing this, because it is now a record of our stories, you know, and because like I said, like when I passed my test of metal, it was awesome, and it was it was great. It was a real beautiful moment, and obviously there was a few people there to witness it, but there was at the same time there was a lot of other stuff going on. You know, it was the end of E4, and there had been a lot of character death. There was a lot going on in the Glory Square.
E4.
So it's I found it useful that we've been able to kind of talk about it and record it. But I totally get that some people might be like, oh yeah, you know, there was this big moment, and then like you said, a load of other stuff happens, and then the Empire moves on, because I know it's a slow game, but it's you know, if characters have got a big turnover of like dying and then new hats and things like that, the game does move on pretty quickly, you know, away from it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And quite often that can happen in poetry and songs. But I love the idea that the visual aspects of it will just enrich how the game looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's sort of my plan really, is exploring the Yo-Folk game. Trying not to get shivved on the battlefield. That'd be great.
You're fine. You're an archer, and maybe Lady RNL by that point will definitely be around. You know, we can have some fun. You know, because that's the thing, is like there's hardly any archers within Dawn, but there is one archer who I've had quite a bit of role play with out on the battlefield, and usually is because, you know, she's keeping her eye on someone and I'm making sure no one gets them, you know.
Again, teamwork.
Yeah,
teamwork.
It's good that we're I mean that is one thing I've started looking into, because I was like, what am I actually interested in? I do like the military game in on the practical side, as in like what we're going to do. I prefer to get I'm kind of interested in like kind of lance leading or skirmish leading and things like that. So yeah, I think that's probably what I'm going to start kind of leaning towards. But yeah, the
general.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about it, because I went for general
and a lady.
You know, I went for general like the first like 30 minutes of E1, the first ever event, and I was like, "Oh, this is heavy," you know. And I went to military council, and I was like, you know what, maybe one day for my character, but for now, I think just having fun, being crazy glorious on the battlefield is the way forward. But I'm thinking, because one thing I kind of noticed about last year, everyone wants to group up, because everyone, you know, wants to know what to do, and they just, so really I think we're all more effective when we're lots of smaller lances, like you said with all, I know Orzel was a big lance, but they kind of spread out. So I think there's definitely room for more kind of smaller groups to bunch up when they need to and then split. That seems to be when we're most effective, because I find things get a little bit lost when you've got big. Some of the other nations seem to do it really well, like Wintermark, and that they have these big blocks. But for us, I notice when we block up too much, the communication breaks down a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I was with a lance, quite a decent sized lance, at E2, and at one point in the battle, myself and a couple of other members at lance broke off together, and we went off and we basically did some skirmishing, and we were able to just like control a lot of what was going on. I was like, well, that worked a lot better than, like, you know, 12 of us in one block. It worked out so much better when, you know, 5 of those 12 went off and did some skirmishing and actually, you know, controlled the battlefield a bit better. So I do think, you know, those more smaller lances definitely is quite effective.
Definitely. And like, if you're in a big group as well and that entire group gets surrounded,
you need the small stabby people to come around the side.
Exactly.
Because it does seem to be what happens, is that people get cut off, and if you've got a lance full of like 30 people, and then you're like, especially if you're leading it, you're like, I'm trying to like herd all these people, and you're like, right, okay, we know we need to get out of this situation. And by the time that's like obvious to everyone, you're already surrounded, and it can be
exactly.
It can be bad, but I think it's a lot. Anyway, I'll that's that's my roundabout way of saying that. I think that's going to be my aim, and mainly probably just doing some goofy stuff. But I haven't got any like any massive plans. So,
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You can turn up and have a million plans for Friday night like Robin, but then something completely random might happen and you never know. That's the joy of it. I mean, I hope you get some of your plans done.
Robin you'll get it done. I'm pretty sure Aaron will get it done.
Aaron will get it done.
Aaron was going for a hat, but you don't want to like say anything yet, do you?
I'm going to go for a hat
on the record, but We'll tell you when we stop recording.
Yeah, I'll tell you the hat when we stop recording. But yes, going to go for a hat this time. And I've started the ball rolling by speaking to a few people through the wonderful thing that is IC Mail. And yeah, hopefully that will become a thing. And I'm about to be very cheeky and IC Mail a load of people about it. I deserve the hat.
Yeah. You got to get your name out there, you know.
I need to convince them I deserve the hat.
Yeah. And small player events are a really good way of doing it as well. I was playing I've kind of got a like sort of bridge character at the moment, an enchantress, and she had a full-on pitch from somebody at Taylor Favors who was wanting to be a senator. So, and that, you know, that was really cool, sort of just hearing their arguments. So, you know, at your player events, that might be a time to
yeah,
this is why I'm great for this hat.
Yeah, because the weekend there's a lot going on. There's a lot for the Empire to get through and the player base to get through in those 3 days. So when you do want to make those types of things, then yeah, I think I don't know if player events give you an advantage, but I'm pretty sure that like when we've spoken to, I think we've spoken to a few people now when they first started LARPing last year, that they hit the ground really running with their game in the first Empire event because they went to like 2 or 3 player events and they did obviously did a lot of talking, got a feel for it, and went, okay, this is my niche. And then when they got to, unlike us, we were like, what is this? Then when they got to E1, they were like, right, okay, I know I need to go to whatever, this place to talk to this person if I want to start the ball rolling on this, you know. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing what we did. We just kind of went, oh, there's lots going on. What's happened?
Ooh, swords.
That's what we went for, though, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Right, folks, we're just about at time. So,
just before you stop, I've got a little present for you guys.
What?
Yeah, it was just so sweet of you guys to invite me on. Just let me be on the podcast. Really. So I've it's
been a pleasure.
I've joined you guys.
Oh my god!
Oh my god, that's so real.
It's not quite finished, but
enjoy. I love it. Oh, we're so ferocious.
That is
always want to
amazing.
draw the femme presenting characters as ferocious.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, I love it. Oh my god, it's amazing.
Oh my god, thank you.
My beautiful
so
armor.
much.
Such nice armor.
Yeah,
I'll send that in the post to you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Not at all.
Thank you. That is amazing.
One thing, that's amazing, Kate. Honestly, like, because the one thing about like us passing the like that, because you were saying about like capturing that moment in a storyline, I did kind of think, oh yeah, wouldn't it have been good if we had our knight errant?
Oh, honestly, the way you have drawn them as well, that's our fighting style. I always fight on the arm where Godric's shield is not present, you know, so that we can have that full, like, you know, the more I look at it, the more I'm just like, oh my gosh. I'm in love.
Best guess.
Best guess. Yes, you win. You win.
I know Matt P never brought us a present.
Hear that, everyone?
Yeah, awesome. Can't wait, Kate, to see your new character on the field. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Right, we'll say goodbye to the podcast, everyone. See you later, everyone. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you once again to the wonderful Kate for our amazing artwork of our glorious knight errant Sir Aranel and Sir Godric. If you enjoyed this show, make sure you give us a like, make sure you give us a follow so you know when the new episode is posted. Until the next one, you can go check out some of our other LARP videos that we have done. Until the next time, though, we love you and stay safe.